right, Kingston, you ready for the show?
Kingston.
You want this chair?
No, this chair should put it here. Just go to the chair. See?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph E. Reed. I'm very excited to be playing music for you today here in the Acoustic Courtyard 2025 Decatur Arts Festival. I'm going to be playing some violin and guitar. Thank you, sir. Utilizing my looper pedal to mash it all together. So I call myself the one-man orchestra. Thank you so much. My name is Joseph E. Reed, the one-man orchestra. My biggest fan is here, Kingston. He's going to be leading off the applause, so just listen for him for when to clap. My wife is here too, helping me out. I do have some stuff on this table for sale. And then also I have a email newsletter that I send out to folks regularly, letting them know what's been happening, what's going on, upcoming performances, basically helping you to stay in the loop. Okay, that's a bad pun. I'm using a looper pedal to create this music, and so you can stay in the loop. So I'm gonna put this over here too. Okay. All right, just gonna keep the music going for you. That first one was by Ed Sheeran, and this next one is by Michael Jackson. Thank you so much. That was by Taylor Swift, Wildest Dreams. Thank y'all for being out here. Hope you're enjoying the wonderful weather today for the Decatur Arts Festival. My name is Joseph E. Reed, the one-man orchestra. You can find me online, josephereed.com. Also, if you're on social media, Joseph E. Reed Music is where you can find me. I've been putting a lot of stuff on YouTube. I've been doing live streams there, but also Instagram and TikTok and things like that. Facebook. So, check those things out. Just so you know, the reason I'm able to have this full sound is because I'm using a looper pedal. So I create the background music, usually with the guitar, but like in the last one I used the violin to create the background. Then I add some harmonies and things like that, and then create this symphony of sound on top of which I play the melody and pull at your heartstrings. So, and I like to do a lot of different genres of music, different styles, mostly pop, but pop is a very big category. So here's kind of a pop song, see if you recognize it. I guess it's pop, we'll see. All right, that was some Tom Petty for you, Free Falling. son Kingston. He's the best. My best fan. He always knows when to clap. That song was "When I Was Your Man," I think by Bruno Mars. So one good thing that I like about doing instrumentals is that I don't have to remember the words to songs, and I can just kind of like, not worry about that. I can cram more songs in my head without having to overload the lyrics as well. But sometimes I forget. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying the music. I do want to let you know, my name is Joseph E. Reed. You can find me online, josephereed.com. And if you go to the website, a thing should pop up for an opportunity for you to join my email newsletter. It's pretty entertaining newsletter. Folks have said, hey, I get your emails every day, and they're really fun, and I like to read them. Yes. So that's cool. I like to entertain, so you'll like it. Also, I do have poetry books that I wrote that are for sale here, and also Venmo, CashApp, and things over here by my lovely wife and handsome young son. So if you're interested in those things, those are there too. that was some Michael Jackson before he beat it. So just want to let you know, my name is Joseph E. Reed. Check me out online, josephereed.com. I do have some things for sale over here, some books I've written poetry, and it's entertaining, it's heart-touching, Ocean Songs it's called. Also there's Venmo, CashApp, and stuff over there too. So some of you probably have seen me, I practice and bust out here on the square a lot, and so it's one of the things, yeah. So I'm happy to be here, it's pretty cool to have a tent, but it's always good to share my gift with the wonderful people of Decatur. Like, this is like Decatur where it's really wonderful. So here's a fun one that I do that gets the kids dancing, and the adults too. Here we go. Hey, I'm having too much fun. Hey, I hope you're having fun too. Good to see folks dancing, moving around. My name is Joseph E. Reed. Make sure you check me out online, josephereed.com. And keep the music going for you. If you do like the music, there's an opportunity for you to find out more about what I'm doing through my website. There's a pop-up that'll happen for you to join my email newsletter. But you can also write your name and email down over here if you want. I've got a folder for collecting those things. And I'll keep you informed with those, keep you entertained with those as well. What's up, Caleb? All right. All right, that was some Madonna for you. Cool. Okay. Let's see. Hey, that was Outcast for you. Don't worry about the time. All right, my name is Joseph E. Reed. Hope you're enjoying the music. Make sure you check me out online, josephereed.com. That's R-E-E-D. I do have books for sale, some poetry books that I've written, and it's good stuff. And also, if you are interested in learning more about when and where I'll be performing, if you'd like to stay in the loop, then you can join my email list. There should be a pop-up on my website for that, but you can also write your name and email down over here. So I usually do this when I'm out performing anywhere. I'll kind of open it up for song requests. But it's kind of a dangerous thing. I performed down in Americus, Georgia a couple weeks ago for a school, and I was like, all right, kids, song requests. So I jumped down to the audience, and they started naming these songs that I'd never heard of. I'm like, next, you know. So finally someone said a song that I was like, okay, I got you. But then sometimes like small kids, young kids will name something from like the 70s. I'm like, whoa, how do you know that, you know? So it's pretty cool. But anyway, it's kind of a risk that I like to take just to kind of keep me on the edge. So if you have any song requests, you can raise your hand like in school and I'll call on you and you can yell out your song request. Any song requests now? Yes. I have to work on holiday. I can play you a different Green Day song. Huh? All right, play a different Green Day song. So I hate it when I say, oh, sure. Okay, here's a Green Day song. That was Green Day, Time of Your Life. You got an easy one for me?
Falling away, your song?
Oh my goodness. My song. Let me see here. Let's see. Yeah, that was the original song. I've got an album called Falling Away, which you can look it up. I don't have it here with me, but Falling Away, and that's like the first song on it. I sing on that one, and I play all the instruments and everything. But yeah, thank you for that request. Yeah, usually I play cover songs, well, lately, but I do have a lot of original songs. But I haven't been practicing lately, so that was a good challenge. All right. Any other song requests or favorite artists? Bob Marley? All right, I'll do Bob Marley one for you. I'll do this one. Thank you so much. All right. It was fun on the song request. I'm gonna say something I know for sure now. All right, this is "I'm Yours" by Jason Mraz. Nice fun dance song for you. All right, be sure to check me out online, josephereed.com, it's R-E-E-D. And I do have some poetry books here for sale. And also, if you'd like to be on my email list and be in the loop, make sure you find out more about how to do that. Thank you all so very much. Enjoy the festival.
Hey, thank you. It's great when they come announcing the winners.
Oh, good idea.
Yes, good crowd. Can I do this now using this now?
Yep.
Hey.
Should I unplug this guy here?
You can plug.
Okay, go ahead. You did lovely, my friend. I got you.
Hey guys, thank y'all so much for being out, and another round of applause for Joseph Reed. It's amazing, so amazing. If you guys want to stick around, we have Trippin' Trio is coming up in 30 minutes at 2:30. But in the meantime, if you're interested in the winners of the artists here at the Art Festival, I'm going to turn this over to. This is Angie Macon, the director of the Decatur Arts Alliance. She is going to talk to you all about artists out here, and then, like I said, stick around. 2:30, we have more live music right here.
Hi, thank you for coming, and thank you for coming to the 2025 Decatur Arts Festival and bearing with us as we got through the rain of last night and Friday. Thank you so much for supporting the arts. I'm going to announce the winners of the 2025 Decatur Arts Festival Artist Market. We had 133 artists this year. It's the most we've ever had, and so we have a lot of great talent from around the country. Each winner gets a cash prize as well as automatic admission into 2026 Artist Market. Let's see. Third place went to Tiffany Owenby. She is from North Carolina, and she is in booth 4 on East Ponce. Second place goes to Melissa Hampton, who is from St. Louis, Missouri, and she is in booth number 13 on East Ponce. And last but not least, our number 1 winner is directly across from the breezeway in booth 5152. Yvonne Miller and her partner, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce this, Stefan Hoekbron. He's waving, he gave me a thumbs up. They are your number 1 winner here, and they are from Decatur. So, thank you so much, and congratulations to the winners. You can follow us on Instagram, Decatur Arts Alliance, for any photos of the festival and of the winners. So thank you so much. And thank you, Susan Sparks, who rocks our world. And Carter and Alexis.
Show you the crowd. Hola Vegas, good to see you, man. Uh-oh. Got a good crowd here today. There's my boy. Alright, we tear down and I'm gonna take off for now. Let these next people set up. Trippin', an American rock band. Alright, I'll post up somewhere here and probably be busking in maybe about half an hour from now. So stay tuned. God bless. We'll see you soon.